Welcome to another video and welcome to another Back to Basics video. In this video I'm going to take you through the three main categories of main lines: fluoro, monofilament and braid. The pros, the cons, when to use them and when not to use them. So without further ado, let's get in the video. Monofilament is probably the most popular of all main lines. Now there's one reason for that being is that it's very easy to source. Most tackle shops sell it, online sell it as well, and the price is reasonable relative to the other two, the fluoro and the braid, which can be in most circumstances a hell of a lot more expensive than your general purpose mainline. Now there's various different grades of this mainline. You'll pay anything up from about 8 quid up to about 40 quid a spool, a big deep spool. All the different manufacturers make their ones. They make various different variations of it, and it's just a matter of getting used to one that you feel confident with, one that you can use, one that doesn't frap up. And just, you know, there's so many of them out there. It's down to personal choice and what you feel confident in. I use the Avid camo reel line in 12, 15 and 18, depending on different situations, and I can't fault it. It's very, very good bit of kit, and it's reasonably priced as well. When would we use our monofilament? Monofilament is an all-round general purpose line that we can all use. Price is a factor in it. You can use it in deep waters, snaggy waters, weedy waters, shallow waters, all different types of water. You can use a monofilament line. It is a real general purpose line that you can use in any venue in the entire world. When I tend to use it is mainly for distance casting, for, you know, using a 10 pound or a 12 pound main line with a leader to really hit those like 30 plus wraps with the right rods. Another reason that I used monofilament is when braid is banned. My favourite is braid, because you can feel so much more with that. We'll come on to that in a minute, but monofilament I mainly use for distance casting, and when braid has been banned or you can't use leaders, then I'll step up and I use a 15 or an 18 pound monofilament to get my rods out of the distance or fishing in short. The higher you go up with the breaking strain, 15, 18, 20 pound, it'll be a lot heavier. It's good when fishing over weed as well, when braid is banned. So what the pros of using monofilament line and the cons of using mono? Now the pros are, it's quite reasonable, it's the cheapest out of the three different types of mainline that you can use. It's also, it can be used with any type of rod, any type of test curve, and you won't bounce as many fish as you possibly could do with fluoro or braid, which is a little less forgiving. So a monofilament can be used on test curve rods from 2.5 up to 4 pound test curve, and you're not going to lose as many fish because it's a lot more forgiving. Cons are that it's got a lot of stretch in it. Some will have not as much stretch, others will have a lot of stretch in the line, and if you're fishing snags and weed and stuff like that, then you're gonna possibly lose more fish because of the stretch in the line. So, you know, or the fish gaining a lot more distance between you and netting the fish in a snag or a tree in the margins or a snag out in the lake. You're gonna, you know, unfortunately, because of the stretch in the line, you're probably gonna lose the odd fish. It all depends on how you play your fish and everything else. So there's the pros and the cons. Let's move on to now fluorocarbon. There are two different types of fluorocarbon. You've got 100% fluorocarbon and you've got your fluorocarbon coated mainline. Now the difference between the two is 100% fluorocarbon is very heavy, it's quite wiry, or can be quite wiry, sinks very easily through the water but doesn't cast very well. With a coated fluorocarbon, you have all the benefits of mono, so it's a lot more smoother, goes through the rings, doesn't wire up as much, and you've got a coating of fluorocarbon which is has a sort of zero reflectory index in the water, so it appears almost invisible. But also with the coated fluorocarbon, you get the benefits of it casting a lot better, like with mono, plus it's very heavy because it's got a coating of fluorocarbon on that mono. Now, what are the pros and the cons of fluorocarbon? Fluorocarbon is very heavy, so it lends itself to fishing short distances if you want to pin that line down to the bottom of the lake bed. Also, it's got a very low light reflective index, i.e. it's almost near invisible in water. So if you're fishing for wary fish and you're fishing in the edge, then fluorocarbon may be the way to go to outwit those fish. It's going to be a lot heavier, and also the fish aren't going to see it as easily as they might do a leg core leader or a braid or a monofilament in the water. The cons of fluorocarbon is it doesn't cast very well. It's very, very wiry. If you use fluorocarbon, I like to stretch it out. Before every session, I like to stretch it out so it's not as wiry, so it casts a lot better and it sinks a lot easier and it's not all raveled up on the bottom out there. The other con to it is that it's very expensive. It can be as expensive as braid. There is a compromise if you use fluorocarbon coated mainline, so fluorocarbon coated monofilament. So in that way, it's not expensive, it casts a lot better, won't be as wiry, and also it's going to sink a lot quicker. So I would probably say a coated monofilament with fluoro is the way to go for a fluoro line. So there's fluorocarbon mainlines. Let's have a look at braided mainlines. There's two different types of braided mainline. There's probably 3 or 4 actually, but the two I know about are sinking and floating. I like to use braid. It's my favourite type of mainline to use. Sinking braid I like to use in the edge, anything up to 40 yards if I've got no weed in front of me, or I've got a nice line laid between me and the spot I'm fishing. I like to use it when fishing up against snags. It sinks very, very well. It's very hard wearing and it's very responsive when you're fishing. When you've got a fish on, you can really feel that fish. Every turn it's making can be quite hairy. Once you get used to it though, I really enjoy using braid out of all the 3 types of main lines, especially a sinking braid as well. It won't cast very well, but you have all the benefits of it sinking and a real response when you get a bite of, if you're fishing up against snags or trying to, you're in a tight sort of swim where you need to play a fish quite hard and turn it. Or whereas with a mono, you've got a lot of stretch on it. Fluorocarbon, less stretch, but with a braid, you've got almost 0 stretch. You'll feel a lot more in control of that fish. Now, floating mainline, I like to use when I'm fishing a bit of distance. I'm fishing over weed, I'm fishing up against snags again, I'm fishing over a bar, I'm fishing over a plateau. I want a real good bite indication of distance as well. So there's lots of good pros there. Again, the same as with the sinking one, you're in direct contact with that fish. You're, if you need to turn it out of snags, or you need to keep the pressure on in weed to get that fish out of the weed, then braid is the one, definitely. Sinking and floating. Now, what's the cons of sinking and floating braid, or braid in general? Cons are it's very expensive. A bit like fluoro, you can pay anything up to 60, 70, 80 pounds to spool your reel, 3 reels up. Exactly the same with fluoro, so it's very expensive, especially if you're damaging your line and things like that. It becomes, twice a year you need to change it. That's a lot of money, isn't it? Whereas monofilament, it probably costs you 20 quid a year to redo your spool. So it's if you're damaging your line, monofilament, you can change a lot. Braid, even though it's a lot harder wearing, if you have to change it, then you've got you've got to have an outlay again with that expense. You get a lot of wind knots if you're not careful with braid as well. You need to wet the reel, you need to put water through the eyes, you need to, every 3 or 4 casts, you need to make sure you don't wind knot, otherwise you lose your rings, you get snapped off, you do lots of different nasty things with that braid, you get wrapped around everywhere. You've got to be very mindful of that as well. Another con is much like it's a pro. Another of the cons to me is that you're in direct response. If you're not used to balancing up your rods like 3.5, 3 3/4, 3 1/4 with the clutch and playing it off the clutch, you're going to lose a lot of fish. You're going to straighten out their hooks, you're going to bump a lot of fish. You have to get used to using braid with a balanced setup. Even though you're in direct line, I think it's a positive. It can be a negative if you lose too many fish with braided mainline. Another negative is it's banned on a lot of lakes because it's been abused over the years. You know, you may set your reels up with braid, but you're still going to have to get 3 new spools and fill it with mono, just in case you're going to fish lakes where braid's banned. So it's a double expenditure, isn't it? The main thing with braid is the cost, and you need to balance up your fishing gear with when you're catching fish on the braid. So there you go, guys. There's 3 different types of mainline: braid, fluoro, monofilament. The pros and the cons: I favour braid when I can get away with it, monofilament for casting any distance, and fluoro when braid is banned, because I like to sink my lines between my rod and my lead and my baited area, so any wary fish don't come into contact with a tight line. But that's just me. If you buy into that sort of way of the way fish react around lines and things like that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you've taken something from that. Please, if you've got any questions, put them down below. Ask away, even in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the video on the 3 different types of main lines, and see you for the next one.